Hey, what's up guys? This is Anthony from Anthony's Customs, and for this video, we're doing another Who Did It Better. This time, surprisingly, we're looking at JADA and SOTA. I'm doing this because these are both two of the best action figure lines for their times in the history of action figures, and they have some of the most interesting figures to show. And they're both Street Fighter, coincidentally, so that works out perfectly. It's odd how you don't get a lot of Street Fighter product, but two of the best things ever happen to be Street Fighter. Very interesting. But if you haven't seen my previous ones, you might want to check those out. I'll put them up there in the corner or down in the description below, depending on how you're watching. You can check those out. We've done Guile, we've done Sagat, and we've done Cammy, I believe. And if you guys like these videos, let me know, and we will do more. But just for those of you who aren't familiar, this is the brand new JADA BLANKA. Came out last month or this month or however you want to classify it depending on distribution, and this guy came out about 20 years ago from SOTA. SOTA, by the way, State of the Art is the name of the company. For those of you who type in SODA, now you know. 20 years ago. And that's another interesting thing, and that's why these videos I think are kind of popular, because we're looking at the best line of action figures in terms of like everything kind of from 20 years ago versus the one now. And it's interesting that this line, not every figure in the line, but holds its own in a lot of ways. Now you might be looking at these two and thinking, well, it's not going to hold its own this time, and in some ways you're right, and in other ways you're probably still right, but not completely, because he's not their best release, that's for sure. But he does do some things really nicely, and we're going to talk about all of that. And the way I do this is I talk about these figures as if I'm doing a regular review. We're going to go over the aesthetic, the accessories, and the articulation, and we'll see if there is a clear winner by the end of the video. Now I will note, first of all, their standard BLANKA uses the light color scheme. Their standard BLANKA uses the much darker color scheme, so that might be the deal breaker for you right there. We'll see. They never did the light one, unless I'm remembering wrong. They did the light skin with the blue hair, but they never did this. And these guys, this is the only one they've done, so maybe they'll do a dark one. We'll see. But we're just going to kind of set that aside and just assume that you're okay with either color. Now let's go ahead and get into the aesthetic, and I will start with the old one. Alright, let's get in with the SOTA Toys BLANKA. We'll get our camera adjusted, and we're going to dive in. Now, it's worth noting that the articulation plays a big role in the way a figure looks, but we're going to set that aside as much as we can and save that for the articulation section. In terms of sculpt, this guy has a few things that are really nicely done. The muscles are very well defined. There's a lot of deep grooves. Now, we also have things like the round shoulders that don't have any real muscle definition, just some lines carved into it. We see a little bit of that throughout the pecs and things too, but you do see that shelf underneath the pec. You see the serratus muscles bulging out. It is a much more dynamic sculpt. You can see the muscles in the neck, the tendons and things. Let me get in there a little bit tighter for you. You can see there's a lot more going on in that sculpt than in a lot of sculpts we see these days. We see some wrinkling going on in the pants. The tattered part looks pretty good. The pants are okay. We do have just the round ball hips, so that's a thing of the time. Like I said, we're going to try to not really include that in the aesthetic portion in order to have somewhat of a fair comparison. The knees are a little lumpy and weird looking, but you do get some nice muscles in the calves. The feet have little wrinkles and scratches on them to make them look like actual feet. The feet have a decent shape to them also. They have a very beastly but human organic looking foot to it. You see the ball of the foot and the individual toes, and the claws have some texturing in there. Let me zoom in a little bit tighter so you can see the texture on there. It actually looks really nice. The hair is a very stylized look. I personally have never cared for that. It is passable if you're okay with it. I don't like it. It looks kind of like slugs everywhere they have the hair, but it is painted nicely with the darker orange with the light orange on top. The pants are painted nicely, though they're a little bit shiny and not textured, so it doesn't look the best, but you do get lots of different color variation on these figures. Same thing with the nails, the claws for the hands, and the feet, very nicely done. And one of the best things about this figure, let me do this hand so that it's flat, it's a very organic sculpt. You see a lot of veins, and it's a really, really nice looking sculpt in a lot of places, not every place. Okay, then we have the hair. We've got a very Sonic looking hair here, very stylized. Not a lot of specific details in there, tiny details, just big chunks. And then the face. Some people hate the face, some people like the face. BLANKA has looked like this to some degree in the past. I think they maybe went a little bit too far with the small face on it, but the individual details are really, really nicely done, especially if you want to talk about the paint. The eyes are super clean. The teeth are done very nicely. You'll see that even more so on the alternate head. And then we have the shading on the body is exquisite. It's really, really nice. It's very saturated and the shading is well placed for the most part. So yeah, there's a lot of good going on here. But the bad would be all the things I mentioned. Also, the round shoulders that don't look good, the head being weird, the hair doesn't fit on the head as well as I would like. That might be a thing of the times. The hair sculpt is weird on the chest and not great on the head if you ask me. He's also stuck looking up. That's an articulation thing, but still, you know, there's definitely some issues to combat all of the good stuff. So there's definitely still some good to be had. If you own this figure, you probably still enjoy it a whole bunch. There's something about these SOTA figures that really, really stands out on the shelf, probably because there aren't too many things made with this level of care. So there's a lot of good going on here, but some bad. And there's one thing that drives me nuts is that he's missing a muscle group right here. That's always a bother to me. I don't like that at all. But still, like I said, some good, plenty of good to be had, especially for a 20-year-old figure. Now this guy, kind of different. It's a much softer sculpt, a little bit more uniform, in some ways more organic because that one's very stylized and has like that combination of good musculature and then round balls. This guy's a little bit more uniform, a little bit more natural looking, I would say, but then we are missing things like there's no dip in here where the pec goes over and then you have the serratus and the lats. It's all just one plane, basically. It's one smooth thing with some things carved in there. So you are lacking a little bit of the depth, a little bit of the dynamism, but you do have a much more cohesive look. And as I mentioned before, the articulation is gonna play a role in this. Let me make it a little bit darker for this guy. The hair sculpt for the torso, significantly better. Torso, arms, legs. It's much more organic looking, much more natural. The head's not that much different. It's basically the same kind of sculpt, except they added a little extra groove in each of the little chunks, and it's far less spread out. So it's not significantly different, but it is better, I would say, and it fits on the head much nicer. Now the face, I would say this is a much better face sculpt. It's much more representative of the character based on a specific look, and it is well executed, but we are missing, for instance, like the details in the teeth are not quite the same. These are much finer teeth, probably a cleaner paint job. More detail in the eyes as well, but a much more cohesive look. The shading on this guy, way less aesthetically pleasing. It's a little bit more purposeful. Instead of painting highlights on the dark green on this one, they painted the low lights on the light green. And the body does look nice, but you know, it's a different type of shading. It's a little bit less appealing and it's not placed properly in a lot of places. So that's a thing. For the shorts, we have a little bit of texture going on here, but way less paint. Same thing for the tattered parts. He's got the tattered part up here, which is nice, but the paint job for the tattered part is really chunky and not super appealing. So a little bit of a trade-off there. For the hands and feet, for instance, they look nice on this guy, but they are missing a lot of that detail with the veins and the sculpted claws or fingernails. You know, you just don't have that on this guy. It's a lot more of a simple sculpt. You can see the shape of the foot. The heel is huge, and then the toes and the front part of the foot is a lot smaller, and I guess that's fine. BLANKA's not known for big feet, but you can definitely see how somebody could appreciate this one over this one. There's definitely a lot of a trade-off going on here for the old figure compared to the newer figure. I will say overall, though, it's time to do the overall who did the aesthetic portion better, other than paint and some very specific sculpting spots. Stand up. I'm gonna have to give it to JADA. The SOTA Toys one does stand out in a few spots. I think the paint is nicer over here. And I think some of the detailed painting is a lot better. Like the hands, for instance, here. Let me just do this for a second. Let me grab a fist hand from either figure and show you what I'm talking about. You get a much more detailed sculpt. Oh, come on. A much more detailed sculpt on the SOTA release. Knuckle wrinkles, extra detailed veins, the fingernails, the claws, they have better paint, better sculpt. There's a lot going on the SOTA figure that you just don't get on the JADA. But because that's not everywhere and it's not an overall better sculpt, I'm gonna have to give it to the uniformity of the JADA figure, the SOTA one. If I say the wrong thing, guys, I apologize. Hopefully I don't misspeak. The 4-letter names are confusing. I think this guy just has to take it. He's too uniform, too clean, too well put together, too cohesive. This guy, if this kind of detail was everywhere, and he didn't have weird things like the ball shoulders and the kind of strange head, this guy could easily win because I think he has better paint. He has more paint, but he just can't take the cake. There's too much going on here. That wins. All right. Now, as far as accessories go, it's not gonna be close because JADA went above and beyond. So we'll start with the SOTA BLANKA. SOTA BLANKA has the neutral head that's kind of angry, and then he's got the yelling head, which looks really, really good. The teeth are done well, and the eyes are painted well, but it still has the same problems as the other head. But you do get those two heads, and then you get the two open hands and the two fist hands. Okay, so that's it for the main body parts, and then his additional accessories include a slice of watermelon, an exceptionally well done pineapple, the best pineapple you'll find on an action figure, and then a little skull. A small skull. I don't know why those are included. They are, but I don't think they add much value. So his accessories are basically just the head and hands. All right, for JADA, you have the neutral head that's kind of like an angry head, and then you have the yelling head, also really well done. I would argue better. It does match some screens or some sprites from the game, so that's very nice. And then you do get the two open hands and the two fist hands. Coincidentally, neither one of them includes the karate chop style hand, which is necessary for some of BLANKA, or at least one of BLANKA's moves. Now, you don't get the extra accessories, you don't get the pineapple or the other fruit or the skull, but you do get his lightning attack effect parts, which are exceptional. They are very, very well done and included at a reasonable price point. Now, this guy, it's fair to point out, the JADA BLANKA did cost more than the rest of the JADA line. This BLANKA did not. So there is something to be said that this one gets a little extra budget put into it. But still, he does come with better accessories, so the JADA figure is going to take the cake for the accessories as well. Now it's time to talk about the articulation, which, well, I think we know where that's going to go, because this guy is from 20 years ago and not made to pose very well. He's made to look pretty cool, and that's about it. He has a double ball peg in his neck, but it's made for leaning back, because that's necessary for BLANKA, but it's not made for leaning forward. Unfortunately, it does lean back pretty well, but it does not lean forward. He can't really get his face forward, so you have to use his ab crunch, which is an ab crunch, and it works fine. He leaned back nicely, and he leans forward pretty well too, and so you can crunch him forward and get him looking forward that way, so it's okay. And then for the shoulders, like we already talked about, it's got relatively small spherical shoulders. If they were a lot bigger, it would be a lot better to pose this guy, and I think he'd actually be better looking, but you do get your rotation out of here. And it's a full shoulder. I mean, it works like a normal shoulder, but it doesn't have any extra range, and there's a lot of problems because the shoulder is relatively small for these big arms and big muscles, so somewhat limited. Single jointed elbows, not quite 90 degrees. Nice sculpt work for the most part, other than that missing joint or missing muscle group, but you're not getting a whole lot done with the arms. The wrists have a swivel and a hinge. This was fine for the times, so we can't hold it against him. It's functional, so that's okay. His fingers are warped from the way I had him stored, by the way. That's not exactly the sculpt. Okay, so torso's acceptable, but not great. Shoulders don't work that well. Head's pretty limited. That's a problem. Hips are on full-on spheres, which it's a sign of the times. I'm not even going to count the looseness that happens over time. These figures sometimes are extra loose, sometimes are extra tight. I don't need to bother counting that because it's not gonna matter, especially since it's 20 years old. It's hard to say what is age and what is design. But you get decent enough range going out to the side. Going forward, it's pretty limited. You do get your thigh swivel in there. Double jointed knee. They sculpted the pants onto the back of the knee joint, which is fine enough, and it does allow him to bend his knees all the way. But because his hips don't work that well, you're not going to get tons of range out of him, and it gets really, really chunky there. I will say I like that the knee is narrower than on the JADA one, but still pretty questionable for that knee joint. And then for the ankles, you get the kind of questionable ankle design as well. Decent range, though. You get the ankle rocker, which was not even common at the time, but it was functional enough, and it was something that existed. And then you get your toe hinge, which is a nice addition to this guy. It's an ugly toe hinge, but it is there. So can he get into the pose? No, he can't do the pose, guys. The pose where he's hunched over that everybody wants to know. He can't. Not really. You can kind of fudge it a little bit, but it's not happening. This guy is not going to win. You already knew this. He's not going to win the articulation section. Now, you can pose him, and he is going to look good, but you're not going to be able to hit the sprites. You're not going to be able to hit certain poses that you wanted to hit for sure, but he can definitely be posed in a way that makes him look nice, for sure. Like, that's a good looking figure in some regard. But his posability is severely limited by time and by sculpt. Now this guy happens to be immaculately articulated. Again, he has that rounder torso, the softer sculpt, so it's easier for them to do it, and the engineering is much better these days, so there's just no chance. I don't think there's a chance any of the JADA figures are going to lose the articulation to SOTA. I don't think so, but I could be wrong. We'll have to go through them and see. But he's got the double ball peg head and the hinged neck, and he can lean all the way back and look forward, and let me make it darker so it's not too washed out. His head just works really well. It's really well done. We have the butterfly joint, not the best range, but it's there, it's functional. The shoulders that go all the way up, full rotation, bicep swivel, double jointed elbows. Wrists have a swivel and a hinge, so that's pretty much standard. We have the ball peg torso up here and down here. So he can crunch over, he can lean back, go to the side. Like, it's everything you want in your articulation. The hips go all the way out to the side. So full on splits, you can bring the legs all the way forward and some, so that you can get them in that deep crouch. Thigh swivel, double jointed knee works really well. I'm flying through this because it's obviously a really good set of articulation that works really nicely. The shackles are a loose piece that kind of hide the ankle swivel, which is a weird thing, but it's still there. And then the ankles do work nicely going forward and back, or back and forward. No toe hinge though, so he loses. No, it's not enough. It's not enough. This guy blows the other one out of the water in terms of posability. That's not to knock the old figure. The old figure is old and of a different time period and of a different style. And if you put him in similar poses, this guy might look better in some of them, but this guy's going to hit all the poses and this guy might hit that one. So yeah, the JADA one wins for the articulation for sure. And now it's time to do our final verdict. Who did it better? Well, this one wasn't really that fair. BLANKA's not one of the strongest releases from SOTA Toys. While it does have its own set of benefits, and it definitely has its own spot on the shelf, for sure. This guy belongs in a Street Fighter collection, without a doubt. There's something to it, the extra paint, the extra sculpt, the uniqueness of it, the fact that it doesn't look all smoothed out and rounded and simplified in order to get all the joints. Yeah, you can't pose him, but he looks cool. There's a lot to be said for this guy, still. But this guy's gonna win. Basically, it's hands down, this guy wins. If you have to pick one, and you don't have any particular preference for either one, you're just kind of open, get this one, for sure. But my argument is, get both. Definitely get both. Anybody who owns the SOTA Street Fighter figures knows they are special in the collection. There's no other line quite like them. And there hasn't been ever. It's 20 years now and nobody's come even close. These guys don't stand out that much in terms of style from a lot of other figures. They stand out in terms of execution, articulation, that kind of thing. It's a wonderful, wonderful line. But these guys don't have quite the soul, quite the heart put into them that these guys had. And as old as they get, as limited as they are in their articulation and things like that, there's still something about them that makes them worth having. So my argument is get both for sure, but if you're only going to get one, it has to be this one without a doubt. It poses well, it has the accessories. This guy leaves you wanting for nothing, really, other than maybe adding this one to your collection too. So let me know what you guys think in the comment section below, but that's going to be it for me. So thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please do give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, give it a thumbs down. And if you haven't subscribed, you should. I have new videos just about every single day and thousands already on the channel. So make sure you come back for all of that. And in the meantime, keep collecting.